welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be cooking, and we're cooking some real corned beef, and it's going to end up being a casserole type thing. I'm not exactly sure what the name of it is. Jay's got that pulled up on his phone, but we're going to cook the corned beef for 90 minutes in the Instapot, and we've just put it in to the Instapot. So come along and join us. Okay, so we've got the corned beef in the Instapot. We're going to add a cup of water to that. And it came with some seasoning, but if yours does not come with seasoning, if you buy it from a butcher or wherever, you can make your own because it comes with the recipe. Okay. So he's opening up the little packet and he's just going to sprinkle it in there. Now he's putting the water in. We're going to put the lid on. Other way. Flip it all the way around.
Technology.
Now make sure it locks. Make sure your vent is on closed. Okay, right in the middle. That helps it build up the pressure. And we're going to put it on high. And do it for 90 minutes. While that's cooking in the hot pot, this dish is called a Irish cast iron skillet Colcannon casserole. And we are using the spices that came in the corned beef package of the whole, the meat. We are not using can. Do not use can. Use the real corned beef. Okay, I mean, I guess you could use can if you're that person, but go get you a hunk. Now, ours was about $16. Depends on where you buy it at and how big a one you get. It's about $6 or so a pound where we live. And so make sure that you don't forget to put a cup of water and the spices in there with it. And it cooks for 90 minutes on high in the Instapot, and you're supposed to let it depressurize on its own. So don't use the vent to depressurize it. Let it just depressurize on its own, and then we'll come back and we will show you how to put the casserole together. Okay, so while the meat is cooking in the Instapot, and look, you don't have to use an Instapot. You could use a pressure cooker. You could cook it in the oven the old-fashioned way.
You can grill it.
So whatever floats your boat, okay? You can grill it. But we're using the Instapot. That was one of the options for the recipe. Now we're going to go ahead and make the cream while that's in there cooking. And so we've got various things laid out here. It takes mayonnaise, heavy whipping cream, whole milk, salt, garlic, pepper. And is there anything else, Boo, it takes?
Everything I'm putting out.
Huh?
All the stuff I'm putting out there. Onion powder.
Onion powder.
And the
butter.
Spicy brown mustard.
Spicy
brown mustard.
Brown mustard. Which we bought yesterday. Did we put it in the fridge or did we?
No, it's in the cook cabinet there.
So we're going to get all this put together. And we'll be back.
We're going to put us about a half a teaspoon of coarse black pepper in here. Or a little more. Kind of like that stuff. Then we're going to put our flour. And that was a third cup.
Third cup.
Okay. Then we're going to put our salt. We're using sea salt. About a teaspoon and a half of that. So close. We got to have a half teaspoon of, a quarter teaspoon of onion powder. half a teaspoon of garlic powder. We'll stir all them together right quick. And we're going to add in our milk. I want to get where I can stir while I'm pouring, so.
2 1/4 cups of whole milk.
And 3/4 cup of heavy cream. Now, our recipe doesn't call for this, but I'm going to add about a teaspoon of red pepper flakes.
And if you don't have red pepper or you don't like it, you don't have to add it. We just added it to the recipe, but you can use ground red pepper too.
And we're going to put about a teaspoon of spicy brown mustard. Stir that in. Then we're going to put our mayo in there.
I believe that's a 1/4 cup.
Yep.
Okay, the meat has finished cooking, and he took the lid off, and he's going to have to weigh the meat. Why are you weighing the meat?
Well, they call for a pound. This was bigger than a pound, but I mean, just trying to stay as close to the recipe as possible. First, we're gonna...
Well, that's one way to do it.
Yeah.
You might ought to get your apron on.
Yeah. There we go. 1.1 pounds. Oh no, wait. That's 11 point some odd ounces. Okay. Our 2 pound
2 pounds.
brisket. Our 2 pound brisket went down to 1.5 pounds when it cooked. And we're gonna go ahead and chop this up. Probably gonna let it cool a little bit more before we chop it up. We'll slice up the potatoes.
Hold it up again. See how thin they are? And you can, depending on what your slicer does, they just need to all be the same thickness.
Calls for a 16-ounce block of Swiss cheese, grated. All right, we're supposed to chop us up a onion. We're going to use red or purple, whatever color you want to call it, on this one.
They're purple, but they call them red.
Yeah.
Don't know why.
Some people call them purple. So. I've always heard them called red, so that's what.
Now, grant you, the recipe calls for half of a large. We're going to put the whole one in because we like onion. So unless you're baking, you can pretty much change your recipe up for stuff.
We do it all the time. Or at least I do. Wanda usually doesn't use a recipe when she cooks.
No, I usually just dump stuff together. But sometimes I use a recipe. Depends on what I'm cooking.
I'm gonna give this a fairly decent dice. I'm not gonna say it's gonna be fine, but it's gonna be a little more than coarse.
Smells good.
Yep. All right, we're gonna go ahead and dump our onions in there, and we're gonna chop up our cabbage. We'll be back. This only calls for half a head of cabbage, so I might double up on the onions, but not the cabbage. Might need to sharpen my knife.
Cabbage is popular in Ireland.
It says to cut this up in 1 inch square, 1 inch dice. I'm not gonna measure it. I'm just gonna cut pretty close to that. Now we've got this all chopped up into the cast iron it goes. I'm gonna use 4 tablespoons of that.
All right.
All right. Just drop 4 tablespoons of butter in there. Dash of salt. Of course, ground black pepper. We'll put in a half a teaspoon of sugar.
Sugar helps take the bitter flavor out of greens. So if you're ever cooking greens, whether it be collard greens or cabbage or whatever, that's what the sugar does. It helps take the bitter out.
I'm going to turn this on to medium high and let it start doing its magic.
So the cabbage and all is starting to simmer. So we're going to let it cook down a little bit before we add the next part.
While the cabbage is hanging out over there, I'm going to just coarsely chop this meat and get it ready to go in, because it'll be the next step as the meat goes in.
And these are Pampered Chef meat cutters. Of course, you can cut whatever with them. I've cut salads up with them and everything else.
And they do a good job.
So we got the meat chopped up, and it looks good and it tastes good because we tasted it. Much better than canned corned beef. Okay, this is that cream that we made earlier. You can see all the spices and stuff down in it. Okay, this is the cheese that we shredded. And of course the meat that I just showed you. And the taters we sliced earlier, they've been soaking in water. We just drained them.
All right, they said to cook the cabbage until it was almost tender. We're at that point, and now we're gonna add in our corned beef. And let that hang out for a little bit, and then we'll come back to you. I decided to boon it up a little bit and add some red pepper flakes. Okay, and then pulled this off the stove, and we're gonna dip all this out. I don't need that on no more. Okay, I've got all that dipped out. And now it says to wipe the pot out. So just using a paper towel to get the last little gimlets out. And then I'll have to butter it and we'll start building this thing.
Now we're using our cast iron, and that's what the recipe calls for. If you happen not to have a cast iron, you just need a heavy, tall, something that you can safely bake in your oven. But it's really better to have the cast iron. So if you got a Dutch oven, great. If you don't, just kind of improvise.
I'm just buttering the sides and the bottom right now. All right, so I'm gonna start layering these potatoes in here, and I'm just gonna go around the bottom in a circular fashion. Okay, we got the potatoes in there now. Next thing I'm gonna do is put in about a third of our cabbage and meat mixture. Okay, try to spread it fairly evenly across there. All right, and we're gonna take about a cup of our cheese, sprinkle it on there. And I'm gonna give this cream sauce a quick stir just to make sure all the, okay. And you wanna pour about a third of this over it. And then repeat.
So potatoes, cabbage and meat, cheese, and sauce.
Right.
And you just layer it until, but do you put cheese on top to end it?
It didn't say anything about it, but I mean, you do the course 3 times. All right, that's the last layer of potatoes. We're gonna boon it up a little bit more. Put some Tony Chachere's on these taters before we put our meat down on it. Put the rest of our meat mixture. Get all that goodness I can in there. Now the rest of our cheese. And the rest of our cream sauce. Now this will go into a preheated 350-degree oven for an hour, covered up. And then after that, it stays in there for another 30 to 45 minutes uncovered. Oh, that's heavy.
That looks good. There it is, folks.
Says that you should be able to stick a knife in it just like butter.
Okay, you're supposed to let it set for 20 minutes, so we've done that, and we're just gonna plate it.
Well, isn't that nice? Thank
Like
you.
customer service, huh? Hey guys, thanks for joining us tonight, and thanks for all your support. Give me a big thumbs up if you like this video, and join my channel, and we'll have more crafts and more cooking to come. See ya.